Welcome to Rom Wills Money Matters. Learn from business failures. Learn from business failures. I'm gonna tell you what. Most people who are successful in business, they could tell you about, even laugh about some business they failed in. Many entrepreneurs, they'll have several different types of businesses, often diametrically opposed businesses, before they find the thing that works. Here's the thing. And let me just be clear now, even some billionaires, even if you check the billionaires' history, they'll have that business, they just say it just failed. It just didn't work out. And look, let me be real on something. Everything is not going to work out just period. And there's no shame in that. Even if it seemed like it's successful for another person. Like, one thing to consider about any business is a lot of factors. Like, you could have, you got to have a great idea. You got to do it well, all of that. And you could be very good at it, but you could just be in the wrong location. I'll use an example. I learned that when I was 10 years old. I remember my uncle and aunt, they bought this, they took over this little takeout joint in Maryland. It was in North Brentwood, Maryland. I don't know what's there now. They probably knocked the place down. So they got in there, and I remember I was looking at it as a 10-year-old. I said, where y'all gonna get people to come in at? And some people did come in, but not to the extent it needed to actually make money. And then they found out that the previous owners had been running numbers out of there, so that's how they really made money. But it just wasn't a bad location. And you put the same thing in another location, boom. But that's one of the things you learn. See, when your business failed, it don't mean you failed. It means you didn't do something right. And you just have to figure out what it was. And then you can apply it to the next business. And that's it. Because here's the thing, once you figure it out, once you figure out certain principles, boom. Like I use my uncle and aunt's takeout joint as an example. Well, one of the cooks in there, people kept complaining about them. And that could have been an issue too. But, you got to think, okay, what am I going to do for a business? Is there a demand for that service? Because one part that many people fail in business, they'll jump into something, but nobody wants the service. Nobody wants to serve it. Use another example. When I had a book stand at this vendor's market. Flea market. At this flea market in Maryland, Camp Springs, Maryland. And there was a woman across from me. And she had all these pillows and everything. And I think in the 2 years that I was doing business there, I think I seen her with one customer. One customer, like she would just be there, but that wasn't a good location for what she was selling. See, location is, you got to sell, you got to know where. Another example, like say somebody is trying to make money at natural hair expos. And I've talked about that before, because I've sold some stuff at natural hair expos, books. But it was always a tough sell. In fact, I remember this one natural hair expo had this young kid trying to clown me. He was like, that I ain't gonna sell. And then Spirit sent like 3 people to buy books from me while he's sitting there looking. Then he had to be quiet, but still, he was kind of right. He was kind of right, because it wasn't a good location. So you got to think about, okay, what do you want to sell? What's your service? Okay, where's the location? What's the demographic for that business? Is there good foot traffic? Like if you want to set up, like say a kiosk in a mall, you got to walk that mall. You got to walk that mall. I learned that from a bookstore owner, and he told me. He said, and that's another thing too, maybe another conversation, learn from other business people. But he always said, if you checking out a mall, don't just look at the prices. Walk the mall, walk it at different times. Walk it late at night, walk it early in the morning, walk it during the business times. Also pay attention to the customers. See, you got to look at everything. Okay, say you have a business, it fails. You got to look at everything about it. Okay, what was the business? All right, is there a demand for the business? Okay, sure, somebody else who succeeded in a business, but you don't know what they're doing. What's your marketing like? What's your marketing? Are you telling people about the business? You letting people know the business is there or that you're offering that service? What are you doing? You got to look at every little thing. You know, sometimes a business could fail because you didn't manage the cash right. Or sometimes a business can fail because it actually is good and there's an uptick in customers and everything, but you weren't ready to handle it, which I've talked about before in business. You want to go 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. You don't want to grow too fast. You want to make sure you can handle any uptick in business. It could be all of a sudden. You know, just have that idea like, okay, what happens then? Boom. Like I give you an example. Like say I start a kiosk somewhere just selling just my books. I'm actually, if I did just that and say I get the right location, they selling like crazy. The way everything is set up, the way my books are set up, I can order books overnight because I can go through Amazon. They'll print the books up for me and ship them to me, and I can pay for overnight. So I'm actually ready for something like that. But you have to be ready for that. You got to prepare. Were you prepared, or were you prepared for down periods? And maybe if you're a business owner who have, employees, okay, what were the employees doing? Did you get the right employees? You got to look at every little thing. And then once you look at every little thing, then you can make changes. And actually, the first place is look at is yourself. Because I remember, like I talked about the credit thing yesterday. Now, I remember I had to get a car from this one of those buy here, pay here places, right? And the guy was pretty good. Like you give him like a certain amount down, and people usually gave him, this was in Edgewood, Maryland, you know. Shout out K Business Podcast. He know where I'm talking about. He knows exactly where I'm talking about. So there was like a buy here, pay here type of place. And the dude would make plenty of money around tax season. He would make plenty of money. People use their tax return to get it. But then he had cut-up switches in cars, and he had to constantly repossess cars. And the business didn't work for him. But then I saw the same guy again in my last neighborhood. He had a yogurt shop. But it didn't last very long because I actually got some stuff from him, but it didn't last very long. And I was thinking about it. I was like, I think an issue with him. He was a good guy, but maybe that wasn't what he should have got into. Like, part of the thing is, was it a business that suited you? Too many people get in businesses just because they think it makes money, but it has to suit you. You got to do something you love that you got a natural talent for. So that you look at that, but you look at all of that and then you don't make the mistake again. And indeed, maybe you can do the exact same thing. I'll end this talking about Tyler Perry. Everybody know Tyler Perry. I mean, that dude's a billionaire. You know, he's a black man with a major movie studio, lot and everything. I think there was some discussion about he was building a private airport, airstrip. Look. I remember his story because, you know, he's big, played Medea and all of that. But how he even got there? Because he was talking about how one week all he had to eat was a pack of cookies. All right, he did a play. He did a play in Atlanta. It was, one of those Christian plays. The first time he put a lot of money into it. It was a total flop. Nobody came. I think the number was like 30 people came. All right. He learned from that failure. Built up some money again, did the play again. What he did this time, though, he got a full house this time. What he did this time, all he did was just change the cast. So instead of just whatever actors he had, and they might have been good actors, he populated the play with local ministers. The ministers, in turn, their congregations came out. Boom. And the rest is history. I mean, that dude got, oh man, at some point he'll probably have a TV network, but he makes just as much money like partnering with other people. But he learned from his failure. So when you're in business, learn from your failure. I'm successful now because I learned from what didn't work for me, what worked and didn't work. Oh, I've had a lot of business ideas, y'all, trust me. A lot of little things I jumped into or at least looked into and I say, nah, this ain't me. Or this ain't gonna work. Now, what I do works. But learn from your business failures. All right? So anyway, that's all I have for today. Y'all know the deal. Let's go make that money.